Howdy there, Guitaraholics. Joe Powell West back with another review. If you are new to the channel, man, sit back, enjoy. Hopefully this speaks to you. If you like it, please subscribe. I try to get new content out as often as I can. Here lately it hasn't been as often as I would like, but hey, I'm working on that. And hey, if you're already subscribed, welcome back. Sorry for the delay since the last video. It's been a minute. All right. Today, I would like to talk about the Fender Squire Jazzmaster Mini. And chances are pretty good, if you are new to the channel, you were looking for a review on this guitar. Last time I looked, which was a couple months ago, there really just wasn't that much out there about this guitar. The two YouTube videos I found on this, one guy hated the guitar so much he refused to review it. The other guy seemed to like it, and I fall in that latter camp. I'll let you know right now. I do really like this guitar. I think this is very pretty. Before we get into the hardware and electronics and all that kind of good stuff, basically this is a 3/4 size Jazzmaster. Short scale neck as well. So a standard Fender scale is 25.5 inches. Your standard Gibson scale is 24 3/4 inches. This takes it down even shorter, 22 3/4 inch scale. You can reach out here and play a bass, or you can be very comfortable right here and play on this little guitar. I'll point out too, this is also a 20 fret neck. So that shortens it down a little bit more. Wes, why do you have a child's guitar? This thing is tiny. You've been playing for over 30 years. What possessed you? Well, I got very sick. I spent about 6 weeks on my butt, glued to the couch. I couldn't even really lay down. I was afraid the crap would go into my chest. So I was propped up, and of course, if you know me, or if you've seen the channel before, I can't go that long without playing a guitar. Acoustics sat way up here in my setup. Even my Gibson SG was kind of unwieldy, so I thought, hey, this is a little guy. I don't have a Jazzmaster, so maybe I'll give this a shot. And it really fit perfectly. And with that shorter scale neck, even though it was kind of propped up, I wasn't overreaching, never put me at a bad angle, so I was able to play some guitar while convalescing. So of course, as you have figured out at this point, this Jazzmaster Mini fit my purpose quite nicely. And yet, even though I'm better, and I'm up and around, and I'm back at work, and all that good stuff, I'm still picking this guitar up quite a bit, and it is just fun. And it kind of begs the question, who is this guitar for? The obvious answer is little hands. So children first picking up the instrument, they're just trying to get the feel of things, and you know, this is a lot easier to approach for little hands, for sure. I picked that out all on my own. I didn't even use a tablature book. So, all right, sure, that makes sense. But there are a couple of oddities about this that make me think maybe that's not really the case. That's maybe, I mean, sure, this is a great way for kids to approach the instrument, but there are a couple of things on here that make me think that maybe that's not the best approach, and there are maybe some reasons why more seasoned players would want to pick one of these up. And the first thing that I'm going to point out about the electronics is these are the standard humbuckers that Squire uses. There's nothing dumbed down. These are pretty hot pickups. Just run through the clean tones, the neck pickup. pickup. And just kind of back off on the tone a little bit. So that's some pretty legit tone. I think you'll notice some of that sounded out of tune, and that really brings me to my second point. The setup out of the box needs a little work, and if you hang with me through the end of the video, I'm going to show you my kind of po' boy setup on this guitar. And I call it po' boy because it's not really going to go into great detail of, we're not going to look at taking care of sharp fret ends or anything that's going to require specialized tools, but I am going to lube up the nut and put a fresh set of strings on that. This is still the stock strings that came on the guitar, and that kind of brings me to my next point. This shipped with 9s. I guess that's maybe just cheaper for Fender. I realize that 9s are extraordinarily popular, particularly on the 25.5-inch scale Fenders. So they probably just have more 9-gauge sets lying around. And I use 9s on my 25.5-inch scale guitars for the most part. I do have hanging over here that, of course, is the opposite way of the camera, so why am I pointing? But my signature Dimoflage Dimebag Daryl Dean, I keep detuned, and my boy Dimebag played with 11s, and that is dressed with 11s. Makes sense. Some of my more detuned guitars, I'll put 10s or maybe 11s on it, depending on the application. My Gibson guitars, my Gibson scale length guitars, they start off at 10s. Anything lower than a 10, anything thinner, it's going to kind of flop around and not sound great. In fact, my very first Les Paul was an Epiphone Les Paul, and it's I picked it up because it was a 7-string, and I just sort of put it aside and didn't really think 7 strings were worth much because it had a regular set of 10s on it, so that low string was floppy as hell and really could not be used for anything until much later I found a light top, heavy bottom set that worked really well on it and completely woke that guitar up, transformed it really. So when you're looking at, and as a matter of fact, before I move on, I have 11s on my SG because I will often play in drop C on that guitar. It's a dirty bastard. It handles it really great, but it needs a little bit more of, a little bit heavier string to keep that from just flopping around. And so with that in mind, the shortest scale guitar I own shipped with 9s. Which, let me show you how that basically makes writing a Tool riff just, it just happens on its own because I'm not bending the string, I'm just pressing harder. You have to have a light touch. Especially with a D. I hope you can hear it. I hope the mic is actually picking all this up because it just ever so slightly puts it at 2. Which, boy, that will really discourage a young player. I went through with my tuner and everything looked like it was in tune and blah. So we don't want that. We don't want that. So part of the setup is going to be putting 10s on this. I may try 11s at some point, but I think at least 10s will be a good starting point. Now, why is that also kind of rad? Actually, you know, before I get to that, let me really kick on the distortion and, well, the overdrive here. And you can hear what these pickups can do, because I don't think most beginner guitars can do this. Yeah, it's got power behind it, man. That's pretty impressive. Nothing weak about this at all. And if you noticed, 9s on a neck this short, holy hell, you can just bend the shit out of them. It's ridiculous. Alright, what's a youngster gonna do when they realize that, wow, these strings are just bending right off the fretboard? Okay, I have to wonder if that would be discouraging or if that would be just more fun. I know I'm having fun with it, but I also know how to control it a little bit more, make sure that it doesn't sound too terribly sloppy, unless that's what I'm going for, right? Well, I've got just a little bit of overdrive. Let me. See, the pickups are so hot with just a teeny bit of drive. It still wants to break up. As far as hardware, I will say new player, experienced player, anything in between, you're going to want to change out these teeny tiny mini strap buttons unless you want it to fall off of literally any standard strap. Personally, I like to jack around with hardware, so I happen to have strap locks lying around. And part of the setup is going to be dropping in those the strap locks. I think that's going to, well, not think, but I know that's going to make this much more secure. The tuners, I don't know about them yet. There's a plastic nut, and I can feel the strings grabbing on the nut. So if you giggle, I swear I will turn this car around. Seriously. I'm going to lube my nut. Okay, I guess I'm turning the car around for myself. Shit. So, If you don't have, oh my God, nut lube lying around, and I don't, because I just don't see any point in buying a product with as horrible of a name as nut lube. At least I can't do it with a straight face. Grab a mechanical pencil, and we're going to put graphite in here, and it works just as well, if not maybe a little bit better. And just whenever you change strings, it's not a bad idea to add a little more graphite in there. Okay, and after this is all graphited up, I'm going to see what the tuners what the tuners can do, because I'll have it almost in place, and then the string will slip out of the binding, and boom, you're like 3 cents over what you want it to be. So I'm going to reserve judgment on that. And lastly, I do want to talk about the bridge. I've never seen a bridge quite like this, and I'm sure that was just one of the easiest things to slap on, because this is just 4 screws holding the bridge in, absolutely no route underneath, and instead of strings pulling through as you would with a Telecaster, it's top loading. So if you can see that, the yeah, I'm not sure if you can, there we go. That's what I was supposed to.
Guitaraholics, this video should have come out probably a week or 2 ago, but we had some technical difficulties and I lost the tail end of the original video. What I'm doing now is I'm going to change the strings and do my po' boy setup on the Jazzmaster Mini. We'll see if putting some tins on it wakes it up a little bit and makes it a little bit easier to play. I've heard from some of my subscribers that they are not comfortable with changing strings. I'm going to try to get you as much detail as I can on how to tie off here, and I'm even going to show you how to change strings on a floating bridge. So if you've got a Strat style guitar or something along those lines, don't worry, I got you covered. And I'll probably do a separate video on how to change the strings on Floyd Rose style. But for today, we're going to talk about probably the simplest style of guitar to change the strings, and some very easy setup tips. So for this, you really don't need any tools. However, if you have them, this would be a great time to, now you can kind of focus down. This would be a great time to pull out your favorite tuner, a lead pencil, a mechanical pencil, and if you have a string winder, that's great. This will actually be the first time I've really used this D'Addario string cutter that also has a string winder and an end pin puller for acoustic guitars. So we'll see if I can recommend this after we do this this change. But in the bare minimum, you really want to at least have wire clippers to make the string change a bit easier and clean up after. All right, let's get down to it. First thing you want to do, and this is probably the proper way to do things. Often I will get lazy and change one string at a time, particularly on floating bridge guitars, so I don't have to worry about readjusting everything. That just goes back up into pitch, makes things a little bit easier. And if you have a stop bar tailpiece type of guitar, you don't have to worry about the bridge or the tailpiece coming off, and make sure that it's facing the right direction when you put it back on. But for this, we're going to take all the strings off at first and do a little bit of a deeper dive in this guitar. So down here at the headstock, if you have a string winder, this will make it much easier. We're just going to loosen every string. If you really want to hear it, once it gets all floppity, then we're good. And yes, floppity is the technical term. Okay, now that everything is nice and loose, we can cut the strings and get them off the guitar. So I usually like to actually cut them towards the headstock up here. So you have less material that's going through the headstock piece. So here we go. We're just going to clip all of our strings. This actually works quite nicely. Wish I had one of these years ago. Okay. Simply unwind. They should pop right out of your tuners. And be careful, this is wire, and this can pop you and stick in your finger if you're not careful. There we go. Okay, and since this is a fixed bridge, we don't have to worry about springs or anything of that nature. So just make sure that everything pops out and pull them all at once. And that was satisfying. Now when I said being lazy and changing one string at a time, I will typically open up a new string as soon as I clip the old one and put it back in the envelope. But in this case, we're just going to set that off to the side and recycle later. Before we get started, I thought I'd show you the route on the inside of this guitar. So if you are thinking about getting one of these and modifying it, you do have a lot of options. I probably should have grabbed a better screwdriver, but I'm anything but unprepared. So, here we go. And we'll probably fast forward through this. As you're unscrewing this, if you want to do this yourself, make sure you're not hitting these screws, because this is actually the height adjustment for the pickups. And you might wind up with your pickup either standing up too high or sunk into your body. The pickup height was actually adjusted quite nicely on this right out of the box, so we don't have to mess with that today. That was a bitch. And that was a bitch. I'm telling you. Oh, nope, not quite. Well, I give Squire this. They can sure screw a guitar. Okay, who else is holding this in? That should be it. Should be, but it's not. Here we go. Moment of truth. That is a huge route. So this was inspected by either B or 13. So thanks there, B13. If you wanted to rewire this, these are ground wires. That's all you have to worry with. You can put in 3 humbuckers. You can do basically any assortment of different pickups in this, because there's really no dividers in here. And since everything electronics wise lives on the pick guard, if you can make a new pick guard, you can load it basically however you want to get in here. And again, just 2 ground wires and you're good to go. All right, so if you were following along at home and you have a guitar that's maybe been sitting around for a while, you can take this apart and you take this as an opportunity to clean. If you wanted to get in and wipe all that down with a nice soft cloth, if you need to oil your fretboard, this is the perfect time while you have all your strings off. So I'm going to put this back together really quickly and we'll get back to the setup. Well, thanks to movie magic, this is now instantly put back together. And we're going to start putting our strings on in just a moment. In this case, I'm using Elixir 10s. I'm a big fan of the Nano Web. There is a relatively new kind called OptiWeb that's supposed to feel like untreated strings. I will try those eventually, but I had this on hand, so we'll try this out first. Now we're going to go to the nut before we get started. And if you have nut lube, stop giggling and then apply it. But since we don't, wow, that is a very narrow cut, so I'll do the best I can here. But mechanical pencil will actually get in there just right, and the graphite will lube up that nut so the string doesn't get bound on it. This is actually, I'm doing this a little bit sloppier than usual, but it does wonders. What I'm going to do here is actually take a piece of one of our old strings, here we go, and use that to kind of make sure that gets in there just right. There we go. And if you want to be really neat, you can rub off the excess. But make sure that, particularly with the wound strings, you get a fair amount of graphite in there. That is much, much cheaper than getting a branded lubricant for your nut. And stop giggling. I know you out there. All right, so we're going to get started. There are some things that you do have to do differently on different kinds of guitars. So I will talk about setup on floating bridge guitars, because that does take a little extra step. With acoustic guitars especially, I like to make sure that the tension stays fairly even. So I'll do the 6th string and the 1st and the 2nd, and the 5th string, and then the 3rd and the 4th, just to kind of make sure things are a little more balanced. But with this, it's an electric. It already has flex built into just the way the neck is affixed. So I'm just going to start off with the 1st string. And on this particular guitar, oh, that's going to be the...
Hold on. Okay, there we go.
Hi, Miss Luna. Luna wants to be part of the video. Get the puppy in that video. Hi, Luna. Okay, we're doing guitar stuff, baby. That's right. Okay, Luna's going to help us change strings. Okay, so we had some technical difficulties. I'm not sure how much you missed, but pull the string over the bridge, make sure that it fits in the right nut slot, and at least start out getting it under the string tree. If you miss it, we can come back and get it. Here's the important part. There are a number of ways of tying strings. This is the way I learned. This is the way that I tend to do it every time now. I make a little kink in the string as I go around the post, and one turn, and I'll put it through the post, which in this light, it's not easy to do. Make sure that when the string comes through, the 1st turn is underneath it. Pull that fairly tight. You don't have to hurt yourself, but I try to hold the string down as I start to tighten up. And there are different schools of thought as far as how many turns you want. Since most of my guitars are equipped with vibrato systems, I like to do as few turns as I can, so there's less to slip. And I'm going to use my string winder. That makes things a lot faster. And there we go. Get just to approximate pitch. It doesn't have to be perfect, because as you put more strings on,
is going to knock everything else out of tune. So I'm going to go on up to, actually I'm going to skip over to the 6th string. So in this case that's a 52. And let's come back to the bridge. The more I was thinking about this, while we were waiting on our technical difficulties to get resolved, I was thinking, okay, turning the saddle is not the best answer. And that's not even going to be an option on most guitars. So what I'm going to do is put a little pre-bend in the string so we can force it up. In theory, force it up through. There we go. Now, with your Fender style bridges, which is obviously what this is based on, you'll be coming up through the bottom, and the saddle will just force the string to go to the right way, and you won't have to jump through this particular hoop. If you do get one of these mini Jazzmasters, bending the string seems to work. So over here, let's make sure that our first string is out of the way. Just going to lay that into the correct nut slot. And I like to have my tuning pegs all facing the same way when I get started, so I want the hole facing straight up. Put a kink in the string, wrap it over, and now as we're going through the post, that's going to come out on top of our wrap. Pull that through as tight as you can. You don't have to hurt yourself. And start wrapping. I always start off hand turning while make sure that this knot is turning out the way I want it. And about 1 turn or so in, I get that everything's where I want it to be. There we go. And we'll worry about tuning up to pitch later. Make your pre-bend so the string's more likely to cooperate. Now from the bottom to the top, go through the hole in the peg. Now the loop is going to be below this. There we go. And start winding. We are almost there in the finish lines. Hopefully you can see how pretty that is winding up for us. And almost lost my string winder. Easy peasy. Okay. Yeah, our string trees are kind of at an angle. I didn't notice that before. All right. Last string. We're on the A string. And we are about good to go on this video, y'all.
10 minutes.
Okay. Through the bottom. There we go. Pop it up through the saddle. Again, you will not have to do this with 9/10 of the guitars out there. We just got a special one, folks. Hello. Let's try and get that. There we go. All right. A strings being an A hole, but that's okay. Here we go. All right, no string trees to worry about. Get our pre-bend. Oops. Do want to get my tuner straight. There we go. And there's probably the most difficult one we've had because the string wants to kind of pop out of the nut slot. That's all right. We are stronger than the string, and we shall win. We shall prevail. Okay. Pull that sucker tight. Show them you don't appreciate him being an A string, and tighten them up.
from here, it'll just be a matter of tuning up and rocking out. See how much easier that makes things? Boom, we're done. We're going to tune it up, and I will do another quick video in a little bit to see how the tens act on this guitar, but we're going to go ahead and cut this one off because of all of our frequent technical difficulties. So thank y'all, and hang in there. There will be one last piece to this video with this guitar rocking out. I will say, the last thing, after you're fully in tune and everything is settled, be sure you go in and clip off all this excess stuff. We don't want anybody to lose an eye. All right, thank y'all.
Go.
Okay, Guitaraholics, I couldn't leave you without the most satisfying part of this. I've got everything tuned up. And I have to say, putting tens on this wakes it up completely. I don't have to use quite such a baby touch on it. We will plug this in, but here's the satisfying part. Oh yeah. You ready for this? Oh! Oh man, that was good. Was that good for you? That was good for me. Oh wait, no. Oh yeah! Oh, sorry. Whew. Get so excited. Oh, that's right. One more time. Oh! Yeah! That's right. You take it. Oh! That was good. That was good. Only two more, I'm sorry. We'll do a 7-string next time. Here we go. There's our first string. Yeah. All right. And this B string that's trying to hide from us. Oh, you're not hiding. Oh, yeah. Okay. We have got a nicely set up, clean guitar. When we have a little bit more time, I will show you how to set intonation, which means that the harmonic at the 12th fret sounds just like the fret note. And here, we're pretty much right on. If I remember right, yep, there's a little bit of improvement we do in the D string and in the A string. That simply means using these screws to move the saddles back and forth just to get the guitar to play as close to in tune as possible up and down the neck. But that'll be for another time. Just very quickly, while I still have you, I want to give you one quick tip on changing out a Strat style guitar. So this is of course a floating bridge, and there's a picking away. So one thing that you'll have to do with all your non-lockings is make sure that the bridge is sitting parallel to the body. You do want a little bit of room to pull up, okay? And the way you do that is by adjusting the springs in the back. You will have a back plate on your guitar when it comes from the factory with holes that line up here. I make so many adjustments, I just usually leave my back plate off. But the secret of making setup very quick is to put something underneath the bridge here to make sure it's sitting exactly where you want it. And because this doesn't have much room, that's because this is aftermarket. This is something I did myself when I was probably 18, 17. So maybe not the best install. But if you take some duct tape and just roll it up in a ball, that way you're not hurting your finish or the bridge. You can get it sitting exactly where you want it. Change your strings and make sure everything's up to pitch. Remove whatever you have to block it, and likely your bridge will go rock back in or pull down, particularly if you just change the gauges like we did on the Jazzmaster. Then, quarter turn at a time, adjust this claw so that the springs are moving back to balance out the tension with the springs. But the secret is you've already tuned it up where the bridge is at its perfect position. So keep playing, and you're essentially tuning with the springs. Once your strings are about in tune, you're good to go. One last final tune, and you're all set. So that is the quick and dirty, easy way to do a bridge setup on a Fender style, or the two-post, the vintage style, and you can do the same thing with a Floyd Rose. I usually use a 9-volt battery that's been wrapped in tape to block that off. But there you have it, and I will do one last playing video with the Jazzmaster so we can hear the difference. But for now, thank y'all, and I'll see ya in just a minute.